Today on Cryptic Mass Guitar, we do a comparison between my Gibson 1957 Les Paul Custom Ultralight Murphy Lab and my Gibson 1963 Les Paul SG Custom Ultralight Murphy Lab. Just a quick disclaimer, don't use YouTube videos as the sole deciding factor as to why you're buying a guitar. If you have that option of going and trying them out in the store, please do that. That's really the best way to see if you're going to actually bond with the guitar and try out different guitars. But be careful, because sometimes you'll end up buying a couple. But I do have 5 sound samples for you today, the last of which is a full-on metal sound sample. It's in 5 different tunings with 5 different amps, and then afterwards I'm just going to play both of these in clean with all 3 pickup positions, and that's just going to be single-tracked. So now that we've heard those 5 sound samples, just like I said at the beginning of the video, we'll take away the drums and we'll play both of these guitars single-tracked on clean with all 3 pickup positions. That way you can kind of hear a little more, I don't know, clarity in the differences. Now, I bet you think that's it for the playing, right? It basically is, but I am going to play both of these acoustically. I'll just strum one chord, and then we'll just hit back and forth, back and forth. That way you can hear if, you can perceive that if there's an acoustic difference between both of these guitars. Alright, so that's it for all of the different playing. So what I like to do now, I'll just try and quickly go over some of the basic specs here for both of these guitars, and then I'll give you my opinion on both. So as stated at the beginning of the video, both of these guitars here are ultra-light Murphy Lab aged. So, with that being said, this is a 2022, this is a 2024. They went a little heavy on the ultralight aging here on the 1963 than they did on the 1957 here. Like, it's a black guitar, so it's really hard to see. But like, there's not a bunch of, or there's not nearly as much aging here on the 1957, and even when you feel it, like, you're feeling a lot more of like of a solid finish here than you are on the 1963. But that is the reason why I got this particular 1963 over like the VOS version. The necks on Murphy Labs I just really love. So both of these guitars are single-piece mahogany bodies. This is a 1957. They did not have the maple cap on top of it. Both of these guitars here also have mahogany necks. They both also have the long neck tenons. This has the chunky C neck profile. This has the 60s slim taper, although it does feel just a little thicker than your regular 60s slim taper. Both guitars also have bound ebony fretboards with the mother of pearl inlays. This has, the inlays are a little different. The block inlays here are the 50s vintage or authentic. Oh, I can't say authentic and Gibson without people getting upset. Both have nylon nuts, and we also have the inlaid Gibson logos and the inlaid split diamond logo with that Les Paul custom truss rod cover here. I believe the inlays on the 1957 are actually cellulose nitrate, whereas they're mother of pearl on the 1963 here. That'll be why there's a coloring difference in the inlays. As far as tuners, the 1957 has the vintage-sized Kluson waffleback tuners, whereas the 1963 has Grover Rotomatic tuners here. They are not vintage sizing, so if you did want to swap these out for locking Grover tuners, you wouldn't have to remount the holes to make them bigger, whereas you would on the 1957. All 5 pickups are Alnico 3 custom buckers. We've got 2 in the 1957, and obviously we've got 3 in the 1963. That means we have the typical 2 pickup setup here on the 1957, whereas we have bridge, and then in the middle position we have bridge and the middle pickup, and then in the neck position we just have the neck pickup. Gives you a different type of blending of 2 pickups. However, you're not able to blend between both of them like you are with the typical 2 pickup setup that's found in the 1957. Both guitars have ABR1s that are drilled directly into the body. We've got a Maestro Vibrola here on the 1963. We have CTS audio taper potentiometers in both guitars. We have the paper and oil Bumblebee type capacitors in the 1957, and then we have the Black Beauty capacitors here in the 1963. So it's at this point where I'm going to give you my thoughts on both of these guitars. Now, I have to tell you right off the bat here, I've wanted this guitar. This has been my dream guitar since I was 13. I've kind of wanted this guitar since I was like 16, 17. Both of these guitars in my guitar history have completely different stories to them. And that is just something, like, when I'm giving you my opinion on both of these guitars, just keep that in mind. So I can tell you right away, the 1957 did not need any adjustments whatsoever from me. It's just like all the other Gibson historic reissues that I've bought. It was perfect. It was, for some reason, just their stock setup just is perfect for me. Whereas to other people, that might not be the case. You might want a little bit lower action, a little bit higher action, something along those lines. The 1963, however, there was a setup done at the store rather than keeping the setup that was done in the factory. And whoa, I am still kind of reeling, trying to decide how I want this guitar set up. And a lot of that does have to do with the middle pickup here. I am still clipping it a little bit with my pick, and I use a thicker pick, and I mean that could be have a lot to do with it. But it just does seem that for some reason on the 1963, I keep changing my mind on the string height for the thinner strings here, the higher register. I think I'm perfectly fine with where it sits with the lower register strings here, the thicker strings. But it just, in my mind, I keep thinking I could use a little bit of higher action on the 1963. So, and when it comes to weights, it's a little differently distributed between both of these guitars, because quite often, when you look at specs and stuff, these are usually sitting around the same weight, or the 63 can actually be a little heavier, and that has a lot to do with the Maestro Vibrola and the amount of pickups that are actually in the guitar. But it just does seem, when I'm playing, the 1957 feels a lot more solid to me, whereas the 1963, very excellent weight distribution here. However, I do think because of the extra, the missing wood for that middle pickup and the Maestro Vibrola here, it does seem like when I'm playing, I'm feeling a little more of the Vibrola than I am of the actual wood of the body, if that makes sense. And pickup wise, when it comes to the custom buckers, or as I believe they're hand wound, there's always going to be little subtle differences between both of the guitars. When it comes to those pickups, it is something that I am finding that the 1957 is a little more, they're a little hotter than the pickups that are on the 1963 here. Now I do have both of the bridge and the neck pickup set to the exact same pickup height. So like in relation to where it sits away from the strings and such, from the pole pieces. So that is something that, you know, when you're listening to the A-B comparisons, you just hear a little more volume here on the 1957 than you do on the 1963, but just keep in mind they are at the same height. The 1957 also, and this could actually be just for setup reasons, because I'm still kind of deciding how I want this set up, but it seems the best way to describe it in comparison to the 1963, it's free from restrictions. So when I'm playing the 1957, I'm playing and like I don't feel like there's anything in my way, or I'm not, you know, I don't have it in my mind to like, okay, well, where is that middle pickup in relation to my pick? And I don't have to think about where my hand is going or where my pick is going. I'm just free from restrictions, able to play perfectly fine. The 1963, because of the middle pickup here, and again, my questioning myself on the setup that I've done here on, you know, how I'm feeling this guitar, I am worried about hitting the middle pickup. So at that point, I'm potentially bringing a little bit of drift in my pick to actually playing right over the neck pickup rather than playing over the middle pickup. So now I'm worried about clipping either the middle or the neck pickups, and it's kind of altering where I'm putting my hand on the guitar while I'm playing. It also means that because of that, I have to hold my pick a little different. So it's not down as far as I normally have it when I'm playing. Also, if you've seen me in the past playing guitars with Maestro Vibrolas, I always have the tremolo arm here, the walrus tooth. I always have it out. I don't ever have it like this. With this guitar here, I think it's amplified by me worrying about hitting one of the pickups. I'm now, you know, overthinking things, and I'm wondering if I'm going to actually hit my pinky on the walrus tooth. So I've been playing it like this rather than what I typically do. And the Maestro Vibrola here, again, it's like I've said in previous videos, it's not meant for dive bombing. You can in certain scenarios, like if it's the lead at the end of a song, give her. But it's meant for a little bit of shimmer and shine, not like you're not Steve Vai. It's not the 80s, right? So it does hold its tune rather well. I've never actually encountered a Maestro Vibrola yet, but I mean, I've only really played 3, other than, you know, like just doing your typical dive bomb in the store and going like, oh, that thing's horrible. I love Maestro Vibrolas. If I could do a made to measure, I would actually put one on a Les Paul, because I'm very interested on how that might actually feel. And obviously, just like any Les Paul versus SG or Les Paul SG, the thickness of the body is definitely going to come into play here. So whether you're someone who likes the thinner body like the Les Paul SG here, or the thicker body like I generally do on a regular Les Paul, a single cut Les Paul, that's always going to come into play. And as well, it is something that you should think about when it factors into the amount of resonance that you can actually feel. Generally with like a thinner body, especially with like a lighter coating of the nitro finish, you're going to feel a little more resonance than you would with this, with a thicker body. Oftentimes you'll feel, especially with a full mahogany, you'll feel a lot more, like it still feels deep acoustically in your body when you're playing, but you're going to feel a lot more of that presence, so that mid-range and that upper mid-range and high end with the thicker body and thicker all mahogany body. And again, just like any other Les Paul single cut or Les Paul SG or what have you, when you're playing a Les Paul, the neck is shifted towards you a little more because it's more into the body. Whereas with an SG, it's shifted like 2 inches away from you. So if you're going back and forth in the store, you know, in your home studio or in a live scenario, just keep that in mind. You know, when you go to the SG, it's going to be about 2 inches away from you, but you're going to have a lot more access to the upper frets. And the middle position, I'm not sure how I feel about the middle position yet, because I'm someone who does a lot of blending. So if I'm doing a recording or if I'm, you know, playing live or anything like that, which is few and far between now that I'm in my 40s, I'm someone that, like, for a lead, I like popping it into the middle position. And then what I like to do is actually start with the bridge pickup dialed back a little bit. And then I'll usually start bringing the neck pickups tone back a little, and I'll kind of, that's where I usually start. And then from there, I kind of, you know, try to get a little bit of a sweeter tone mixed with a little bit of high end, if that makes sense. Whereas on this, I can't really do that. So I'm still kind of getting used to the middle position here on the 1963 with the 3 pickups. And I see its benefits, but I also see where I'm going to go to that middle position instinctively and go like, oh, right, 3 pickups. However, what I have noticed is it really, really works well in a clean setting or something with very, very little drive. So what I like to do a lot is go on like the drive channel of an amp and then just bring back the gain or the drive to where there's like barely anything. That's how I like to get a lot of clean tones. That's just, I prefer that sound over like your typical clean. I don't know why, but it's just something that I really enjoy doing. So the middle position really works well there. However, what I do find with the middle position is oftentimes, even with like a completely clean tone, oftentimes it does seem like the top end does have a little bit of built-in drive to it. It's probably the wrong way of saying it, but it does seem like even in like a completely clean setting, if I put it in the middle position, there's this little bit of overdriven tone that comes through in the middle position that's not there in the neck or if it's in the bridge position. So those are really my thoughts between both of these guitars, or my opinion on both of these guitars, which again, I've wanted this. This has been my dream guitar since I was 13 years old, and around 16 or 17 is when I actually, you know, saw this in a catalog, thought it was actually the cheaper Les Paul Custom, and I then, you know, found out or learned about the 1961 to 1963 Gibson Les Paul Standards and Gibson Les Paul Customs, and that's what this is. So pretty neat. But if you put things down like to brass tacks or what have you, this absolutely, to me, I just bond with this a lot more than I do this. But I absolutely love this, and the fact that I'm still kind of working on little tweaks here and there with it keeps a lot of my interest in this guitar, and I'm extremely fortunate to own both. Thanks for watching.